at Churchill Downs, and Tanya came in early this morning to make a very big announcement. So I'm just going to give you the floor. Tell everyone what this is.
Well, good morning, Shannon.
Good
and thank you for the
morning.
opportunity to announce to your viewers that Kentucky Oaks, for the first time ever, is going primetime on NBC and Peacock next year, 2026.
Whoa.
It's an incredible opportunity to really increase the national viewership of this product. You know, we take for granted here in Louisville because the Kentucky Oaks has always been a beloved opportunity for us, but we forget that it runs so early, especially in the West Coast, that we miss a lot of opportunity to have viewership around that. So, and we hope people will learn that, you know, the bigger the Oaks gets, the bigger the Derby gets, and everyone in Louisville benefits from that, the economic opportunity that comes with that visibility. So it's a very exciting opportunity for us, and we're excited to share it.
Wow. Okay. So typically, for years, the Oaks have been between 5:50 and 6:15. So now it will be between 8 and 9, probably closer to 9 because NBC will be covering it, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So the telecast will start at 8 p.m.
Okay.
And the post time will be between that hour. Of course, there'll be lots of pageantry that we'll want to share with our new national viewers. Survivor's Parade will still be a central part of our celebration that day. Of course, fashion has always been a big part of the Kentucky Oaks. So we look forward to really branding around that and sharing that with our new viewership. And obviously, great premier racing, our fillies. If you look at sports across the country, there's a new interest in women's sports, and our athletes are horses, but these are still the ladies. So we're really excited that NBC has taken an interest in the Oaks, and you know, the Derby has grown exponentially over, especially the past decade. This past year, we had a viewership of an average of 18 million viewers.
Huge.
And
biggest since 1989.
Since 89,
yeah,
which is the first year I remember watching the Derby at home. So there is an appetite, there is an interest, and this gives us an opportunity to introduce the Oaks, this new product, to this fan base who's really, you know, loving the lifestyle component, the wagering, the horses. There's a lot we have to offer. For our local people, of course, that means that they'll be leaving the track a little bit later than they're used to.
But there aren't going to be any races after the Oaks race.
No.
That's the last race of the day.
That's an excellent point. Historically, the Kentucky Oaks had 2 races on the card that occurred after that. So, you know, of course you have people similar to Derby. You have people who leave after the big race. You have people who stay for the whole day. Now the Oaks will be the grand finale. And according to that timeline, it'll be finished under a beautiful twilight. That's when the sun starts setting on the first Saturday, the first Friday in May in this case. So I really think that it will give the Oaks an opportunity to be its own distinct product. You know, I think for us, we think of Oaks and Derby as a 2-day event, but now Oaks will be its own brand, and we'll be able to introduce that to the world as we have the Derby.
And for those planning on going to Oaks, they don't have to get there as early because the first race is also being pushed back a little bit.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So the day isn't longer. We're not extending the day. The gates will open at 11. The first post time will be at 12:30. So that entire undercard of racing will just shift a bit. So now is an opportunity to introduce a brunch culture. When you think of like ladies in fashion, you think of brunch. So we're hoping that we can introduce a concept around that. But yeah, you can sleep in a little bit because of course now everyone's going to Derby too.
Right. Okay. So also a big thing that a lot of people might be considering. Okay, we have a lot of those galas on Friday night, and a lot of them make good money for nonprofits. So what will this mean to those?
Absolutely. Decisions like this are not made in a vacuum. So it was very important to us. You know, we're hyper aware that the success of the Kentucky Derby and the Oaks is not ours to claim. It's the community that has made this possible, that has made it so successful for 151 years. So as part of our process of determining whether this opportunity was the right one for us, we've been reaching out to our nonprofit partners, fundraisers, the galas, everyone who is so synonymous with the Derby celebration, restaurants, the Restaurant Association, to first of all find out what kind of impact this will be, to start collaborating on creative solutions, and to determine, you know, what we tweak or change in order to ensure that they continue to be successful, because that's such an important part of the Kentucky Derby week celebration. And you know, with any kind of change, there's always the initial hesitation, and then you realize that innovation is what has kept us culturally relevant for so many years. And so I think that there will be some changes. Even for our own team, there are some operational challenges of now turning over the property from Oaks to Derby in a shorter amount of time. I mean, those hours make a big difference when it comes to completely clearing the property and getting ready for our biggest day ever. So for many of those decisions, the discussions are still ongoing, but the communication is working. And so we are absolutely committed to collaborating and finding out what we can do to support the success of our community partners.
So what do you think that the galas will do? Will they shift it to Thursday nights or just have a later evening on Friday?
You know, I think that I don't see a shift to Thursday night, even though more and more new parties are starting to pop up on Thursday night. I think what could happen, because for many of them, the celebrities they bring to town are part of the appeal, and their availability is a big part of this. And so an extra night of hosting a celebrity is an additional expense and not something they're always available to do. So there is always the option of having a tiered ticket, which is, you know, a dinner portion for people who aren't going to the Kentucky Oaks. When you think of the, 120,000 people that we host for the Kentucky Oaks, many of our locals may not be there and they're interested in going for a full sit-down dinner at a gala. And then the track crowd comes for the cocktail hour, the celebration, the dancing, and the fundraising, hopefully, as well.
Will there be dinner at Churchill Downs on Friday?
So the food concept will change. We're still having conversations about what that will look like. Traditionally, everyone, comes early, they have a lunch, and then they
leave.
Typically leave. So, what that looks like at the track will shift, but we don't have those details in place yet exactly.
Well, yes. I mean, when did you guys make this decision?
This has all happened really fast. The opportunity was presented to us. There was some research, community discussions were a big part of this. So over the last few weeks, we've been having those conversations. And then, when it comes to an agreement like this with NBC, which has been an incredible partner to us for many years now.
And you just signed a whole big new deal that'll take you to 2032. So we're excited. We'll have the Oaks now and the Derby on Wave.
Absolutely.
Until 2032. Yeah. But yes. So what about restaurants? Because a lot of them, those are their two biggest days of the year. So if they're missing out, though, on that dinner crowd, or what do you anticipate will happen after the discussions that you guys have had?
That's a really great question. That was one of the first things we thought of when this opportunity was presented to us, and we've had many discussions about what that could look like. What we're finding is that, especially the guests that come to the track, those dinner reservations are such a huge part of their own personal traditions. So they still want to do that. Whether we're serving dinner there or not, they still want to go to restaurants. So I anticipate that those reservations will still stay really, really healthy. Some of the discussions we're having now include, licensing the opportunity to show the Oaks at restaurants so they can market it as an Oaks watch party for those who aren't at the track. Typically a licensing situation like that would involve a contract, but in this situation, we're open to just, blindly licensing that so they can use that opportunity. They can really capitalize on it, and for those who don't have tickets to the Oaks, they can market it as an Oaks viewing party and get seating a little bit earlier for those who won't be at the track.
And it's just going to be a super late night for a lot of the restaurant workers and hotel workers.
It always is. We always say like Oaks fades into Derby and you start to lose track of where you are. I know for me, a little bit of an unusual situation since I'm usually working on a press release after the Oaks race. I don't know that I've ever gone to
You're never going to sleep.
Right. That's not unusual. I've seen you at 3 and 4 in the morning, right. Shannon. But I don't know. For the entertainment at those parties, they really don't go on until 10, some even midnight. So I think that there won't be a lot of change in terms of that programming.
Gotcha. Okay, and then what about Derby Day? No shift in timing for that?
No shift for Derby. So the Derby has found a really, really successful viewership moment in the middle of the day on Saturday. I think what we forget, because we're in Louisville and people get off from school and everyone takes off from work, and it feels like a holiday for us, but we forget that outside of this region, people are at work while we're celebrating the Oaks.
Right.
And so they haven't really built in this cadence of expecting a 2-day celebration like we do here. Of course, our celebration extends far beyond that. So what we're really hoping to do is you look at some other multi-day sporting events where people really start to tune in day by day. First of all, this not only creates an opportunity for a 1-hour promotion of the Kentucky Derby, the contenders, and getting people informed, educated, and excited about what that's going to look like. But also really creating this expectation across the country for people to have their own watch parties and to start learning about the fillies. And, you know, by the time they sit down at their Derby at home parties to celebrate, they are fully ready to place their bets, to make their wagers, and they know, you know, what's to come on Kentucky Derby Day. So we hope over the next few years that'll be a part of this, and especially with the Peacock platform, which is growing. I think in the first few years we will absolutely see growth, but I think it's exponential beyond that of where this can go.
We know as you mentioned, the Survivors Parade that we're looking at right here, such a huge part every year of the Kentucky Oaks. Is that going to take place at the same time as it has in the past?
Those are details that we're still working through. I mean, I think that to share this moment, this beloved moment, with the country, with the world even, would be such an opportunity for fundraising and awareness for these women's advocacy health issues. And, you know, there are always such compelling stories to tell. So if we can give a national platform to these causes, and even the local beneficiaries that we've partnered with for years, that's just an additional opportunity for more fundraising, more awareness. So I'm hopeful. I can't say for certain now, but I can visualize a scenario where this is very much part of that 1-hour package.
Okay, what are the trainers thinking? Are they just thinking, oh, it's going to be a late night,
You know,
and then I have to get up early Derby Day to get the horse ready?
our horsemen and women are a very specific breed. You know, I think that their hours of operation are beyond standard to begin with. And so the reaction we've gotten from them is absolute excitement because they recognize the platform this gives for not only the industry and the growth opportunity for the industry. And, you know, we feel a massive responsibility as a leader in the industry to continue to grow interest in the sport, you know, on behalf of the horsemen who make a living doing this, but also to create a sustainable economic engine locally as well. So $400 million economic impact during the Derby locally. How can we grow that? And I feel like we've done that with Derby through the years, and now Oaks is an additional component with that. There's so much opportunity to grow that product. So the horsemen have been really excited. I cannot wait to see, you know, these horses coming up on the finish line with that beautiful sunset, that cotton candy beautiful sunset across, you know, over Churchill Downs, and the garland of lilies in the winter circle, you know, as the sun sets, and then everyone's off to their parties, to their dinner reservations.
Yeah, maybe you don't have time to change outfits and definitely comfy shoes.
That's another part of it, is if we can work out a transition where people can go immediately to those things instead of a black tie change. And honestly, at the parties, I think you do see a diverse range of attire anyway. So, you know, hopefully little tweaks like that will make this somewhat seamless. But there'll be change. And honestly, it's when you look through the 151 years, it's been slow innovation while trying to maintain, you know, the traditions that are so important to people. And admittedly, and I can say this now, I was really hesitant when it came to the new paddock project that we unveiled for the 150th, and it's been widely celebrated, and you know, it's such a beautiful addition to how we celebrate the Derby. So these changes are always risks, but they're always part of our innovation and really our obligation to continue to grow the industry, the sport, our brand, and then hopefully the benefits that trickle down from that locally in terms of economics.
Yes. Well, Tanya, we have an audience in here. I have my colleagues, my co-anchor Olivia Russell, and our reporter David Mattingly. Let me ask both of you, do you have any questions for Tanya? David said talk later.
David never has a shortage of questions.
That is true. Okay, so you heard it here first, exclusively right here on Wave. Next year for the 152nd Kentucky Oaks, you're going to be able to watch it prime time. It'll be between 8 and 9, probably closer to 9 o'clock, that race. But we're going to be gathering lots of information, talking to a lot of restaurateurs today, gala hosts, so we'll have a lot of reaction to this announcement. And I guess people, when are tickets going on sale?
Oh my goodness, great question. I should be ready to talk about that. Tickets go on sale later this year, typically around the fall.
Okay.
So, KentuckyDerby.com, and follow us on social media because we will never hesitate to tell you when those tickets are ready
right.
to be sold.
Well, Tanya, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing this big, huge news with us. When I heard it, I said, what? Oh my gosh. But again, it'll be the last race of the day. So basically the whole day is ending around the same time.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
First post at 12:30, last between 8 and 9. And it's exciting. I didn't see this one coming either, Shannon, but I'm really, really excited about what this can do for the brand.
All right. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you wore pink for this announcement.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.